Father, I thank you that we can learn. I thank you that we can grow. But most of all, I thank you that after we have grown, we can go. Thank you that you are impacting our lives. Thank you that you are leading us and guiding us in all truth. Thank you that your word is a light unto our path. I thank you that as we stand here in a Bible school and we're coming to an end, you have walked this road with us. Bless you. We love you and we learn from you. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. And everybody said, Amen and amen. Okay, guys, tonight you are not having me, you are having the chief himself. So this is John C. Maxwell, developing the leader within you, lesson number or part number 2.
When I think, when I see a leader, I think of the word dreamer. Leaders are dreamers. They have a dream, they have a vision. And there are 4 vision levels of people. Some people never see it. I call them the wanderer. They just go through life. They never see it. I mean, they just wonder. You know what I mean? They just wonder. They're nobody's home. Nobody's ever been home. Uh, nobody's going home. There's just no home sweet home. They just wander all throughout life. Okay. And then number 2, there are some people who see it but never pursue it on their own. They're the follower. That's the person. They see it, but they'll never have the initiative to do it on their own, but they will get in line and follow. Then, number 3, there are some people who see it and pursue it. They're the achiever. They're the person that will truly climb up the mountain and get to the top. But the 4th level is the level that I want to encourage you to go to, and that is some people, they see it, they pursue it, and then they help others to see it. And they're the leader. They make life better, not only for themselves, they make life better for other people. And my friend Andy Stanley, who wrote an incredible book that I would encourage you to purchase called Visioneering. It is the finest book on vision and vision casting I have ever read in my life. And I read a lot of leadership books. But Andy Stanley, in his book Visioneering, says that vision weaves 4 things into the fabric of our daily lives. Number 1, passion. There is no such thing as an emotionless vision. You never had anybody say, you know, I have this boring dream. Well, maybe it'll come to me someday. When anybody has a dream, they have accompanied with it passion, don't they, huh? I call passion the great energizer. There's something about a passion that just creates major energy in a person's life. The second thing a vision weaves in for us is motivation. Because a vision is a picture of the future that motivates us to pursue it. And thirdly, direction. Because a vision helps us to prioritize our life. You know, once you have a dream, all of a sudden you're willing to give up things for that dream, aren't you? All of a sudden you say, well, if I'm going to get the dream, I'm going to give this up. I'm going to quit doing this, and I'm going to start doing that. And number 4, purpose. A vision makes you an important link between current reality and the future. And you begin to have a sense of significance and purpose in that entire process. I want to read the next paragraph because I think it's very important. It says, a person without experience sees a vision idealistically. To that individual, the vision alone is enough. Naively, this person casts the vision to others, expecting the dream to do the work, and failing to realize that a vision needs support. A person with experience learns that people buy into the leader before they buy into the vision. Experienced leaders realize that people are fickle and dreams are fragile. Experience has taught me these principles about vision. And I'm going to share with you now, out of my book, Developing the Leader Within You, the 5 most important thoughts I have ever grasped about the dream and the vision. Here it is. The credibility of a vision is determined by the leader. What makes a vision credible? It's not the vision itself. It's the leader who casts the vision. If you believe in the leader, you'll believe in the vision. If you don't buy into that leader, you're never going to buy into where that leader is trying to take you. The credibility of the vision is always determined not by the vision, but by the leader. Secondly, the acceptance of a vision is determined by the timing of its presentation. Timing is everything when you're trying to pass on a dream. In fact, here's what I have found. The right dream or the right vision at the wrong time produces failure. The right dream has to come at the right time for it to be successful. Timing is essential in leadership. The value of a vision is determined by the energy and direction that it gives. When people say, well, how valuable was the vision? How did the people buy into it? How do you know? It's very simple. You look and you ask yourself one question. Do the people in the organization have energy? Do they have direction? You see, once a vision has been cast, if it has been cast correctly, once a dream has been received, if it has been received correctly, it will energize the organization. That's why you never see an apathetic company or an apathetic business or an apathetic department that has a great dream and vision. They don't match. Dreams give energy. Next, the evaluation of a vision is determined by the commitment level of the people. How do you evaluate if the dream really was successful? How much commitment did the people give to it? Because a realistic, right dream will draw people into a level of commitment, a higher level. And finally, the success of a vision is determined by its ownership, by both the leader and the people. And that's huge. So here's how you break a dream down. Here's how you sit down and break a dream down so everybody can understand it and everybody can grab a hold of it and get a hold of it. Number 1, break the dream down so everyone can understand it. Have you ever listened to a speaker sometime and he was trying to share something with you, and basically when he or she finished, you didn't have a clue what they said? And you just kind of, you walked out, and the best thing you could say, well, he's deep. Well, she's real deep. She's down. Well, it was just a deep lesson. That was deep. Yeah, deep doo-doo's what that is. Put the cookies on the lower shelf. Get it right down to where people can grab a hold. They need to understand it. Number 2, they need to own it. It's not enough to understand it. They have to buy into it. And thirdly, they have to contribute to it. By the way, that's how you know they own it. Because people will contribute to what they own, but they won't contribute to what they don't own. Let me explain it this way. How many of you have ever rented a car? You went to maybe another town. How many of you rented a car? Yeah, everybody's rented a car. Okay, can I tell you something what I know about that car you rented? You have never waxed a rented car. Man, you don't get that. You don't go to the car rental and you spend a couple days in and you say, you know what, honey, I'm just going to spend the afternoon waxing this car. It just needs what? No. You don't wax a rented car. You don't own it. You don't put in extra effort to something that you don't own. So people in the dream, they got to understand it, they got to own it, they got to contribute to it, and number 4, they have to pass it on. They have to be able to pass it on. They have to have the ability to pass it on to someone else. Because that's how the dream and that's how the vision multiplies. Okay, let's review for a moment. When I see a leader, I think of the word leadership, equipper, attitude, dreamer, and the letter E is excellence. When I see a leader, I think of excellence. And excellence in the bottom of that page derives from the word excel, which means to go beyond average. That's what excellence means, to go beyond average. Last year, I spoke at a university commencement. And as I looked at, I don't know, there were probably 7,000 or 8,000 people there that day. But as I looked at the graduating class, I decided that I wanted to talk to them about excellence. And basically in that lesson, what I taught them was, I want you as graduates to do more than is expected of you, to go the second mile. And I was really working on them in the back, the fact that life doesn't owe you something, you owe life something. My father taught me that. My dad taught me, he said, John, quit waiting to kind of clip coupons from life. Quit waiting for your lottery number to come up. And in fact, my dad used to say, John, he said, you know, when you were born in this family, you were already in debt. In fact, when you were born, he said, you owed your mother for 9 months of room and board. You got the picture? Okay. And so son, take out the garbage. Get busy here. Get busy. Okay, now. So as I was looking at the college graduates, I was sharing with them, go the second mile, become a person of excellence, go beyond average, beyond what's expected. And I gave them an Old Testament example. Remember when Abraham decided to find a bride for his son Isaac? And so he sent his servant back to the homeland to find a bride. And so the servant, he's kind of nervous because this is the most important assignment he's ever been on as a servant. He's going to have to really do well, choose well. And by the way, when my children were both unmarried, I thought we ought to go back to that Old Testament custom of the parent picking out the mate but my 2 kids totally nixed that one. Anyway, so he's nervous about this. And so he's saying, God, you're going to have to help me. How will I know who should be the bride, the whole deal? And you know the story. A young lady named Rebecca came down to the well, just like the rest of the women. And it was in the cool of the evening when everybody was going to the well. And she saw the servant of Abraham, and she said, well, let me give you something to drink. Well, that was nice. That was hospitable. But that was kind of Eastern culture, so that wasn't unusual. But then she said, I would also like you to give your camels some water to drink. Now, that was huge, folks, because the servant had 10 camels. And 10 camels, after traveling a day, will consume each camel 20 gallons of water. So when she said, I would like to give your camels something to drink, now this is not just being nice. There's 200 gallons of water to draw from this well. Let's say she had a 5-gallon bucket or jug. When she took that 5-gallon jug or bucket to the well, she'd have to go down there and she'd have to put it down. I don't know how long it took, but let's just say it took 3 minutes because everybody was around the well. It was a busy time of the day. Let's say it took 3 minutes. She'd drop the bucket down and she'd pull it out, and then she'd go to some water trough somewhere and she would put the water in, and then she would come back. Okay, if it took her 3 minutes, and she had to make 40 trips, that would take her 2 hours just to draw water for the camels. This is huge. So you talk about excellence. When she said, I'd like to give your camels something to drink, she is saying basically, I'm going to hang around 2 hours and do this for you. Now, the story is a great story, because little did she know that this was the process. This was the process of how the servant was going to select a bride for Isaac. And Abraham was a wealthy man. And little did she know that this 2-hour exercise was going to pay off huge. She was going to be the bride of Isaac, and she was going to be married into one of the wealthiest families of that generation. I mean, she didn't know all those things. And what I think is so important is she didn't do it for what she was going to receive. She did it because it was the right thing to do. I always think it's a little sad, don't you? When people kind of look at you and say, well, I'll be glad to do something for you, but what's in it for me? You see, leaders don't do that. Leaders understand that they are to lead their people with excellence, that they are to go beyond whatever is expected from anyone else. And I put in your notes because I don't want to miss this. Here's what I want you to see. Today's philosophy basically is minimum effort for maximum expectation. Where Rebecca's principle was maximum effort for minimum expectation. In other words, Rebecca looked at life as a leader does. I want to give it my best shot. I want to be a person of excellence. You see, Rebecca teaches us three things. One is that we're not to live our lives as a legalist. Because in her culture, it was kind of like an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And she said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do more than is expected of me. And number two, she teaches us that we cannot walk the second mile until we first of all walk the first. In other words, the first thing she did was she gave the water to the servant, and then she said, let me take the care of the camels. And you know what I find a lot of times? I find people want to take shortcuts. And shortcuts don't pay off in the long run. In fact, my friend Nancy Dornan says the longest distance between 2 points is a shortcut. And I find other people, they have kind of basically what I call destination disease. They just think, boy, if I could just know him or marry her or live there, if I could just work for them, everything would turn around. The third thing Rebecca teaches me is that extra blessings are a result of extra effort. And my good friend Zig Ziglar says there is no traffic jam on the extra mile. Oprah has a great quote. I have it in your notes. Doing my best at this present moment puts me in the best place for the next moment. Great quote. When I see a leader, I think of the word leadership, equiper, attitude, dreamer, excellence, and one more word I think of when I see a leader, and that's the word relationships. Great leaders relate well with their people. In my book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, I have a law called the Law of Connection. The Law of Connection says that leaders touch a hand before they ask for a heart. I was in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I was pulling up to a service station many, many years ago, and I saw this on a window of that station, why customers quit. And I just want to pass it on to you. 1% die. And I want to stop here long enough to say that is a legitimate reason. We never want to say that's illegitimate, okay? 1% die, 3% move away, 5% because of other friendships, they don't continue to go with a company. 9% of the customers quit because of competition. 14% because of product dissatisfaction. But here's what I want you to catch right here. 68% quit because of an attitude of indifference toward the customer. Wow. Now, I'm not going to talk a lot about relationships here because I'm going to teach relationships in another lesson. But what I want you to do is see for a moment the profile of a leader, and I'm not going to go through that, but I want you on your own to look at the 25 different snapshots of a profile of a leader. And I want you on your own time to look and evaluate yourself. But I want to close this lesson on what is a leader by sharing with you two things quickly, and then we're done. Here it is, very simply. When I lived in San Diego, California, I was a San Diego Padre baseball fan. Now, you have to understand, that's not a lot of fun. In fact, I used to say that the Padres have the finest minor league team in the majors. Okay. And one of the things I noticed during the Padre game, between innings, about between the third and fourth inning, out on the big vision board, they would begin to put together on like a puzzle on that board a baseball player's face. And everybody would kind of watch it because in the beginning you didn't know which baseball player's face they were going to put up there, and they would only put one piece of the puzzle up there. Obviously, nobody could tell who the player was with just one piece of his face up there. So it just kind of glued you to the screen because you wanted to see how long it took you to put together the puzzle. And so there'd be one piece and then another piece and another piece. And about the fourth or fifth piece of the baseball player's face, it would start to come together for you. And what was most interesting is that when it got to maybe that fifth or sixth place where you could really tell who the baseball player was, there would be an audible sign. You could just hear the people out at the stadium that night. You would just hear them, they go, they knew who it was. All of a sudden, they said, oh, that's who it is. I know that. Now here's what I've tried to do in this lesson. I've tried to piece together for you what a leader looks like. And the reason I've tried to do that for you is because many of you, you want to be a leader yourself. And you can't be a leader yourself until you have a picture of what it looks like. So if I'm to say to you, be a leader, you say, but what does it mean to be a leader? Okay, we've shared with you what it means to be a leader. But here, this is as important as for you to develop yourself. You'll never be able to pick out a leader unless you know what they look like. Here's the way this works. When I fly into a city and I'm speaking somewhere in a conference and people are picking me up, if the person doesn't know who I am, I found that there are two ways that they connect with me when I come into the airport. And one of the ways is sometimes they'll hold up a sign and they'll have, John Maxwell on it, and I get off and I see all these people and all these, and if there's my name, and I walk over and introduce myself to the person. That's one way. Another way is sometimes they'll take like my book that has a picture on it, and let's hope it's a recent book. But they'll take my book and they'll have it. In fact, I've seen them many times. They'll be in the kind of waiting in the airport area where the passengers get out, and they'll have my picture out there. And they're looking at my picture, and they're looking at the people coming off. And they see what's interesting is one person who sticks up the sign. They make it my responsibility to find them. The person with the picture, they make it their responsibility to find me. And there's two types of people in the world. If you just kind of in your company or in your business, if you just hold up a sign, just hold on, looking for a leader. The good news is there'll be some leaders that'll find you, but there'll be many leaders that'll never see you. They'll just kind of pass you on. But if you have a picture of what a leader looks like, you'll know what they look like. And most of us, we miss opportunity because we don't know what opportunity looks like. Isn't that true? So what happens is opportunity passes us. And how many times as an opportunity passed you, said, oh, I wish I would have done that. And how many of you have done that at least once today? Sure you have. Sure. Oh man, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I grab a hold of that? You know why you always recognize opportunity on the other side? Because you never recognize it until it passes you. But the person that's successful, they know what opportunity looks like when it's coming down the road. And so they are able to seize it and take advantage of it. That's the same way it is about leadership. The reason we're trying to help you to develop as a leader is to give you a picture of what a leader looks like so you can be a better leader, but so that you can recognize leaders around you. So when they're coming, you say, here comes a potential leader. Here comes another leader. So that you can begin to bring them around you and so that you can be more successful. Now, I want you to look at your neighbor right now in closing and say, now I know what a leader looks like. Go ahead and tell them that. And I want you to look right back at him and look at him one more time and say, and you have potential. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's take a moment before we take a break and we go on with the next session. Let's give some highlights, something that he said that you thought, I think that was good. That I can remember. Okay, what did he say about opportunity? Okay, good deal. And that means to you what, please, Dwayne?
Vir my besigheid.
Mm-hmm.
As ek weet ek kan iets doen. Stupid voorbeeld en Johan sê hy wil hierdie gedoen en maar hy weet nie hoe nie. And I can make a buck, there's an opportunity for me to make a buck.
Okay. Okay. And if you don't have the ability to see it, you lose it.
Yeah.
Good deal. Like it. Anybody else? Monique. Okay. And that means to you what? Mm-hmm. I love the quote that he used that before you can walk the second mile, you have to walk the first. Um, yeah, I love that. I love those quotes. Anybody else? Come on. Yeah, yeah. It's very interesting. I'll be with you just now. It's very interesting what you're saying. Myself and Bishop usually have this conversation with regards to the difference between Africa and the US. Africa has got a no culture. Our culture is no. Okay? So most of the times when you speak to somebody, they would answer you this way: it's not my job. It's a no culture. I don't so when you go to a first world country, their way is how can I help you? Okay, what is it that I can do in order to do it? I have learned that in my own life, especially when it comes to church and helping people. Let me not present a no culture. Okay, no, we can't do that. Let me rather try it with a how can we help? Is there something that we can do? Is there something? Because if you put a no on the table, the second time there's a no on the table, people won't ask because there's a no on the table. And they would very easily tell you, listen up, that's it. So I love how she says, listen up, if you're doing something, it is the energy and the excitement that goes with it. I don't know whether you've ever had a salesman that had to convince you of something, and it was his energy that convinced you. It wasn't necessarily the product that he had, it was the way that he was speaking about it and the way that he was presenting it and the way. And for me, that is something that I believe is not only true in church. I believe that's true in your business. I believe that is true wherever you find yourself. Have you woken up in the morning and say, you know what, today I'm going to give my utmost best to be the energy or to max the energy level? And I love another quote that he put in there. And for me, this was really great. He said that extra blessing follows extra effort. And I was thinking that when I was sitting there in the back, and my mind is telling me how many people I know are trusting God for extra blessings, but not necessarily willing to put in extra effort. Okay? So it is that I want maximum output for minimum input or minimum effort. And that is something that I believe should carry weight in what it is we're doing here. Anybody else? Come on, let's add something else. Mm, true, true. Excellence. What stood out for you? Please, Letitia, tell us about it. Okay, okay. It is beyond average. It is beyond. Again, we live in a society, or we live in a culture whereby people are expecting the benefit without putting in. It is interesting if you think about this, but most people or kids, when they finish school, they think their first job is going to land them a house and a car and medical aid and everything coming with that. That's what they think. They literally think my first job is going to pay me enough. Okay, why? Because they're looking at their mom and their dad. And they go, but their job is taking care of this. Not knowing that for them to get there was probably your whole growing up career of your life, which means that we have invested literally years in it. Okay, literally years in it. And I have myself, especially when it comes to excellence, and the way that I look at life, and the way that I try and see life, and the way that I go by in my experience of life, have realized this, and I've made this out for myself, because many a people call what we put in years or time or effort, they would say, you know what, this is what you need to understand, that is what is the right word for what is 'n opoffering? It is a sacrifice. Okay? I believe that there is a difference between a sacrifice and an investment. It is important for you to realize that what other people see as a sacrifice, you better look at as an investment. Because for them, it's giving up. For you, giving up time, giving up fun, giving up, oh, it's a giving up. For you, it's an investment. An investment says that there is a return that's going to come out of this. There's a return that's coming out of what I'm investing at this point in time. I always say this whenever I read my Bible, it's not a sacrifice. It's an investment. Why? Because just around the corner tomorrow, something's going to happen in my life that I automatically can pull that scripture in my life towards that problem that is happening in my life. And then I realize it might have felt like it was a task. It might have felt like it is a big thing. Hear me out. You guys sitting here, it's not a sacrifice, it's an investment. It's an investment. You are investing in your own spiritual life, in your own spiritual attitude. You are investing in the knowledge. And I'm telling you, you might not know this, but tomorrow when something happens, God is going to bring into remembrance the things that you were taught, and that is going to help you going forward and doing that. The last one, which not a lot of you have actually spoken about, is the so leader. We said first is leadership, equiper, attitude that we did last week. Then you had dreamer, excellence, and relationship. Relationship, the important thing about relationship. Oh, hear me when I say this. Hear me when I say this. He made the statement. He said that a leader first shakes a hand before he asks for a heart. So often, we want people to buy into the vision we've got. So often, we want people to become part of this vision or this plan. But we never put in the effort to realize that before we hit the heart, we probably have to shake a hand. Okay? How you treat people is important. How you speak to people is important. How you deal with people's problems are important. How you go by, and hear me out. I'm not standing here and saying, you know what, this is it. Your answer has to be yes for everything in this world. Okay? We understand that leadership sometimes takes the route of going in the direction of correction. But I've taught you this because correction is not rejection. So, as leaders, we cannot be afraid of the fact that ever so often it will be my job to help you back. But not back to my opinion, back to what Scripture says. That is what we believe. So I believe that the Scripture, the Word of God, is the final authority in anything. So should I then find myself in a place whereby I have to apply correction, okay, you need to understand that there's a way that I can do that. I can correct in love. That's what Scripture says. That you should not become a punching bag for me. That you should not become that when you leave my presence, it feels as if you were beaten with a rock. It's not the way that God says. God says, do this in love so that at the end of the day, the kingdom benefits from this. Because it's possible for you to win the argument, but lose the person. And as a leader, that's not something that you want to do. Okay, that's not some place whereby you want to find yourself. Anybody? Last one quickly. Are we good? Are we taking coffee break? That's beautiful. 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 People buy into a person.
When I think When I see a leader, I think of the word dreamer. Leaders today, I would like to talk to you on the subject, leadership is influence. I would like to share with you a couple of insights as we get into this lesson. And the first one is this: leadership is influence. And basically, what I'm here to say to you is that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Harry Overstreet said it so well: the very essence of all power to influence lies in getting the other person to participate. So when we lead people, we influence people. So many times we think leadership is title or position or where I am on a job description chart. No, no, no. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. My favorite leadership proverb is, he that thinketh he leadeth and hath no one following him is only taking a walk. And I know a lot of people in leadership positions taking walks, don't you, huh? So leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Number two, our influence with others usually is not in all areas. Very simply stated, here's what I want you to understand. We can influence people in certain areas, but in other areas not influence them at all. Does this make sense? In other words, we don't have total, complete influence. Many of us think, well, because I'm the leader, I ought to be able to influence people in every area of their life. And that's not true. And when I wrote the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, one of the things I do when I teach these laws is, after we've done maybe a half a dozen laws, I stop and I'll ask the crowd, I'll say, okay, how many of you on the first 7 laws of leadership, how many of you scored yourself a 10? Well, nobody raises that. They go, because some of them say, well, on the third one, I put a -4 for me. You know what I mean? And all I'm trying to do is tell them that no leader does well on every law of leadership. Does that make sense? And then what I try to help them understand is that when you get if this happens to be my leadership team, when you get your leadership team together, one of the things that you understand very quickly is that you find out what you're strong in and what you're weak in, but you find out what every one of the different players on the team are strong or weak in. Does that make sense? What's your name? Lydia. Okay, take Lydia for a moment. Let's say, for example, she may be strong in navigating. She may be a very good navigator. She may be able to take the organization from step 1, step 2. She's really a process step type of a person. Well, if Lydia is stronger in navigating than me, even though I'm, quote, the leader, are you with me? What I have to understand is I turn the ball over to Lydia and I let her lead the team. Now, this is very important, because the moment we understand that leadership is influence, not position. Now, see, if I think leadership is position, you know what I'll think? Because I have the position, I ought to lead everything. Isn't that true? Because I'd say, well, I'm the leader. Hello. You may be the leader, but if you're not good in the area, you don't have any influence. If you don't have any influence, you're taking a walk. So what I do is I look at my team members and I say, the person strongest in this area of navigating is Lydia. So we all look at Lydia and we say, okay, you've got the ball. You're the coach here. You're the leader here. We're all going to hang in here and kind of follow you. You kind of direct us through. And she takes the project. This is very important, because the moment we understand leadership is influence, and the moment that we understand that we don't influence people in every area of your life, then we have to ask ourselves, what am I strong in? What am I weak in? And we go around and we tell the rest of the team, here's what I do well, here's what I don't do well. What do you think? Do you think I do well in these things? And they'll tell you, ask them. And here's what I think you do well, until everybody on the team knows basically who should carry the ball based upon what area of play the ball is to be in. And that is very important in the area of leadership. So when we talk about leadership and understand that it's influence, we have to understand that it's not only influence, but that we don't always influence the people in the same amount of influence or the same way. The third thing I want to share with you about influence is, with influence comes responsibility. Wow. Boy, is that true. with influence comes responsibility. In fact, I have one of my own quotes in here. There are people whose feelings and well-being are within my influence, and I, as a leader, will never escape that fact. So, when we lead people, we're responsible to them, sometimes to a certain extent for them. Number 4, my influence with others is either positive or negative. In other words, when I influence people, I'm either adding value to them or I'm sucking life out of them. How many of you, watch this, how many of you know people that you're just, I don't know, you're having a bad day. Maybe you wake up with an Excedrin headache number 832, whatever, okay. You're having a bad day. How many of you just know some people when you're just not having a very good day, you just say, dear God, in your sovereignty, don't let me see so-and-so. How many of you know? Yeah. Oh, yeah. How many of you are sitting beside that person right now? Don't go there. Don't go there. Some of you are in deep weeds now. And isn't it true? Aren't there other people when you're having kind of a bad day you really wish you could see? Because they're going to replenish you. There are people that use their influence in a positive way. There are people that use their influence in a negative way. I was doing a conference recently on relationships, and I was really getting down to some issues with the people. And I asked them a question, and that is, look at yourself for a moment. Now don't raise your hands. Don't give me any kind of a visible, don't go there, okay. But just look at yourself for a moment. And I got to ask a question of you, and it's a good question. Do other people desire to be around you? Or do you sense that people avoid you? It's a huge question. Because I run into people all the time and they'll say, boy, I'll tell you right now, nobody in the office likes me and they don't want to hang around me. Well, I hang around with them for about 3 minutes and they're just a negative, they're a downer. I mean, they're just a downer. And I want to stop and say, no wonder people in the office don't be around you. Let me help you. My name is John. I'm your friend. Let me tell you something. You're not likable. In fact, I'm getting rather sick hanging around you myself. See, you can use your influence in a positive way, or you can use it in a negative way. And one more thing, number 5, and then I want to talk to you about 10 ways to gain influence in your life. Number 5, people of positive influence add value to other people. And I think that is very true. Success is when I add value to myself. And significance is when I add value to others. And I think that's a huge difference between success and significance. Now, I've just shared with you that leadership is influence. In a moment, I'm going to share with you 10 ways that you can gain influence in your life. If I were sitting right now and I was listening to me do the lecture, the question I would ask myself, above all other questions, would be this one. I would be saying to myself, okay, if leadership is influence, how do I gain influence? How do I become more influential? Because it's a fact, is it not, that if I become more influential, I have the ability to lead more people. So I want to share with you 10 ways that an influencer gains more influence. Let's take the letter I in the word influencer. The letter I stands for integrity with people. What I have found is people that truly influence people have integrity. There's a wonderful paragraph of Dwight Eisenhower who says, in order to be a leader, a man must have followers. And to have followers, a man must have their confidence. Hence, the supreme quality of a leader is unquestionably integrity. And without it, no real success is possible. No matter whether it's on a sections gang, a football field, in an army, or in an office, if a man's associates find him guilty of phoniness, if they find that he lacks forthright integrity, he will fail. his teachings and his actions must square with each other. And the first great need, therefore, is integrity and high purpose. You know what Dwight Eisenhower said many, many, many years ago? It's true, because there was a recent survey of 1,300 senior executives, of which 71% of them put as the highest quality of a person that works in their company, the highest quality, 71% of them said should be integrity. You see, influencers have integrity. I have a wonderful businessman friend of mine by the name of Don Meyer. And do you remember, this was now probably, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. Do you remember when they had the major Tylenol crisis? Do you remember that, huh? And they were, taking Tylenol off the shelves of stores all over the country. Okay. Don Meyer sent me what I'm going to read to you. It's in your notes about Tylenol. Here's what it says. Some years ago, earlier in their mission statement, they had a line saying that they would operate with honesty and integrity. And several weeks before the Tylenol incident, the president of Johnson & Johnson sent a memo to all presidents of divisions of J&J asking if they were abiding by and if they believed in the mission statement. All the presidents came back in the affirmative. The story goes that within an hour of the Tylenol crisis, the president of Tylenol ordered all capsules off the shelf, knowing it was a $100 million decision. When reporters asked him how he could decide so easily and rapidly on such major decisions, his reply was, "I was practicing what we agreed on in our mission statement." And then I love the quote that Don Meyer put at the end. In fact, I would encourage you to underline this one. He said, "John, it is always easy to do right when you know ahead of time what you stand for." Isn't that a great statement? It's always easy to do right when you know ahead of time what you stand for. In the book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, one of the laws is the law of solid ground. And the law of solid ground says to have integrity, you need character and you need competence. Abraham Lincoln on the next page said, "When I lay down the reins of my administration, I want to have one friend left, and that friend is inside myself." Lou Holtz is a wonderful friend and having great success now at South Carolina. I'm so excited for him. His team lost every game last year. I happened to be having lunch with him in Dayton, Ohio, about a month before the season began this year, and I was asking him, I was saying, "How's the team going to do this year?" And he said, "John," and he's a motivator. He's a motivator even at lunch. You just have to understand. When Lou Holtz is with you, you just eat your lunch faster than normal. I mean, he just motivates you. And he leaned forward, that twinkle in his eye, and in the way he speaks, and he said to me, he said, "John," he said, "I promise you this year, we will not only win some games, but we will defeat a top 10 football team." And of course, when he beat the second game of the year, they beat Georgia, was in the top 10. I wrote him a note and said, "Lou, you are a prophet." And he's just a wonderful, wonderful motivator. Here's what Lou Holtz said. He says, "Do what's right. Do the best you can and treat others the way that you want to be treated, because they will ask 3 questions. 1, can I trust you? 2, do you believe this? In other words, are you committed to it? Do you have a passion for it? And 3, do you care about me as a person?" Which brings me to the next point. If you want to influence people, you not only have to have integrity, an influencer nurtures people. There is a nurturing quality about people that influence people. And here's what I want you to note. It's in your notes. Many leaders love their position more than their people. When that happens, leaders soon lose their position. I was in China a couple of years ago with Margaret and my brother Larry and Anita, my sister-in-law. And we were at the Great Wall of China, and they were telling us the story how that the peasants of China would get tired of the oppression, and finally they would gather enough people together they would overthrow the emperor. But what they said was so interesting to me is they said that within 3 years of the time that the peasants were in power, they would be as corrupt as the emperor was. And there was a need for another change within the government. Well, leaders and people of influence understand that the position that they have as a leader isn't what makes them a leader. It's the caring for and the nurturing of their people. Now, first of all, I would be the first one to admit people can be very exasperating. How many of you know at least one person that just really sucks life out of you? I love the quote in your notes of Margaret Smith. Now, this is not true about parents, but my parents have been visiting me for a few days. I just dropped them off at the airport. They leave tomorrow. I love the next one here. Let me read it. When Narvaez, the Spanish patriot, when Narvaez, the Spanish patriot, lay dying, his father confessor asked him whether he had forgiven all of his enemies. And he looked astonished and said, "Father, I have no enemies. I have shot them all." Here's what I want you to know. Few leaders love their people more than their position, but when that happens, leaders strengthen their position. And there's a wonderful paragraph about achievers care about people that I want you to read on your own, because it basically just says the more that you're successful, the more that you're truly going to care for others. Let me give you some notes about nurturing people. Letter A, nurturing people does not mean needing people. A lot of times people think, well, if I'm a nurturer, it's because I really need people. And in fact, I put in the notes, you can't lead people if you need people. I'm not talking about an unhealthy codependency here. I'm talking about caring for people, but I'm not talking about finding all of your worth in having people need you. Letter B, nurturing people does mean that you're going to make a commitment to people. In fact, I love the statement, love will find a way, but indifference will find an excuse. And that's very true. Letter C, nurturing people does mean loving people. Henry Drummond said that you'll find as you look back upon your life that the moments when you have really lived are the moments when you have done things in the spirit of love. And letter D, nurturing people does mean lifting people to a higher level. And that is so key. That is so key. Bo Schembechler, who used to be the football coach for the University of Michigan, said, deep down, your players must know that you care about them. This is the most important thing. I could never get away with what I do if the players felt I didn't care. They know in the long run that I'm in their corner. It's interesting. While I was signing books during the break today, I had a gentleman come up to me and we were just talking for a moment. He's a business person. And he said to me, he said, John, he said, let me tell you when I really got turned on to your materials, your books, and your tapes. I said, when's that? He said, you did a tape about 5 years ago entitled Lifting People to a Higher Level. And he said, when I heard that tape, all of a sudden I realized as a leader that this is what I need to do this. And he said, that tape lifted me. He said, and that's what I try to do as a leader. Well, let me say this. If you're going to influence people, you're not only going to have integrity with them, but you're going to be a nurturer. There's going to be a lifting process. They're going to be glad to see you come into the room. Number 3, an influencer has faith in people. Now I'm going to talk about believing in people. Emerson has a great quote, every man is entitled to be valued by his best moments. Think about marriage. Think about before you were married, huh? Before you're married, what do? You evaluate the person that you're in love with through the best of eyes. Isn't that true? Oh, yeah, I know they've got some faults, and yeah, I know that. But boy, they do this, and they're wonderful about that. And all you can see is the positive. You know the difference between being engaged to a person and being married after about a year? Perspective. Perspective. On the front end, you see all the good qualities, huh? Isn't that right, huh? And because I used to do marriage counseling all the time, and I'd watch this. I mean, a marriage counselor, I always thought it was worthless to do marriage counseling because they want to get married. They're coming in there. I mean, they don't listen to anything you say. I mean, you just look outside, they're getting out of their car, and he runs over there, and he helps her out of the car, and kind of helps carry her, guide her into the office. And, you got this big couch, and you have this one little chair, and you say, sit down, and they both sit in the little chair, you know what I mean? And they're holding on to each other as if they're at any moment going to be pulled from each other's grasp. And you look at them and say, do you have any money? No, we don't have any money. Do you have a car? Well, we use Uncle Charlie's. He's letting us borrow his. And do you have any prospects of a job? Well, I think Burger King, we're going to get a job over there. And they got 17 reasons why they shouldn't get married. You can't talk them out of it. I mean, hello, nobody's home. Nobody's home. Finally, they kind of carry each other back out. He opens up the car door for her and puts her in, and then she slides all the way across. And you kind of think, why didn't you just put her in on the driver's side? Yeah, that's where she's going to end up anyway, huh? That's before marriage. And I mean, all they can see is the possibilities. About a year out later, they're coming back to the same office considering divorce. Now, total different perspective. She's on her side, he's on his side. She opens her door, he opens his door. They walk in the room. He sits on the couch, she sits on the chair. Now they've got, both of them are working, both of them have cars, both of them have a home, they got a good job. But all they can think about is the problems. It's all perspective, folks. It's all the way that you look at life. You see, the only difference between excited about getting married and not excited about getting divorced many times is that all of a sudden, instead of seeing others through the best of eyes, you see your mate through the worst of eyes. And none of us, here's the way this works, none of us are good enough if a person wants to see us through our bad traits. None of us are good enough to survive a relationship. Do you know that? How would you like to be judged at your worst moments? And yet, don't you know some people that do that? And see, leaders, they understand. You see, they see people. Leaders see people not only as they are, they see leaders as they can become. That's what makes them good. That's what makes people want to be around them, because they see that potential within them. So in your notes, assets make things possible, but people make things happen. And in leading others, there are 3 feelings that a leader cannot possess. In other words, if you're going to be around others, if you're going to lead others, there are 3 feelings that you just have got to avoid. Number 1 is fear. When you begin to fear people, you won't lead them. You'll manipulate them, but you won't lead them. Number 2 is dislike. Leaders that dislike their people always take advantage of them. And thirdly is contempt. When you have contempt for people, you'll not lead them well. In fact, in your notes, if we are afraid of people, that's the fear issue, we cannot handle them. In other words, we won't tackle the tough issues. If we dislike people, we should not lead them. And if we look down on people, we will not respect them. And the first responsibility of a leader is to look at people and have faith in them. In fact, let me walk you through this for a second. Here's what I believe. If you're leading a group of people, one of the greatest ways to get people to rise up. Now think about it for a moment. Just think about it for a moment. We're talking about belief in people. We're talking about faith in people. I want you, first of all, I want you to think of a person that really believes in you, okay? Have you got that person in your mind? Think of a person that really believes in you. Now think of your behavior around that person. Here's what I know about you. If you're right now thinking of somebody that really, they think you're the cat's meow. They really believe in you. Here's what I know. That person that really believes in you, the person that really thinks highly of you, here's what I know about your actions. You will do everything in your power never to disappoint them. Isn't that true? Your behavior will just go up a couple notches only because they truly believe in you. So here's what I suggest to leaders all the time. Look at the people that you're leading and give them a reputation to uphold. And you give them a reputation to uphold by talking about something that they do that is very successful. And you not only tell them about how good they are at it, you tell everybody on the team how good they are. Now all of a sudden, you're lifting the bar. You're giving them a reputation of where everybody looks at them, and there's a reputation for them to uphold. And this becomes huge. When you lead people, this faith in people, this believing in people, You give them a reputation to uphold. In other words, look at a good quality of a person that you're leading and put the bar up there and talk about that person and relate that quality to that person. Now, let me stop here for a moment. Make sure that they have that quality. True? If they don't have that quality and you talk about them doing it, you'll lose credibility with the rest of the team because they'll say, well, Joe doesn't do that very well, huh? So you don't want, but find something. What I've always said is find something that really is a good quality about that individual and then lift it up there and give them a reputation of which then they will do their best to uphold it. This is huge. Listen, I not only do this with people in my organization, I do this with my nieces and my nephews. Find your people that you're leading, and if you really believe in them, give them a reputation to uphold. And not only tell them how good they are in this area, but tell the whole team how good they are in this area. And I promise you, all of your people will begin to start to live up to the reputation that they have, because what I have found is leaders see the potential in their people, tangibly let others know what that potential is, and that literally draws the people up to that level. This is huge.
Let me ask you this way, without us going back and saying, hey, this is. Can you see places in your life whereby you are either aware of somebody that's a leader that is not doing some of these things, and where there may be stuff in your own life that you're going, if I can be better at that. I can change that. Somebody just say to me, say something, especially if it's maybe in your own life. Anybody? Well, julle is bang om te praat, nee. Any place. Yeah, yeah. And I honestly, because it makes communication a lot easier if somebody has got confidence in it. So it helps with regard to that. I can be honest about, you guys know me with regard to this. I can be honest about this, but for years as a leader, you tend to bank so much on the team that you eventually fall into that place that says if you need them, you cannot lead them. Okay? Because now I'm afraid if I say something, you're going to get up and walk. And I don't want you to walk because I need you. So now I'm going to endure. And the problem is that we don't get anything done. Okay? And it becomes an issue. It becomes an issue with regard to that. And I will never forget this. I can tell you the story as part of my when I was in the AFM and I was still what they would call a student pastor. Um, you had to do certain things. They call it a mill qualification, and in your mill qualification, one of the things that you had to do was kind of like arrange an event or a night or a day or whatever that is helping to gain funds. So it's a fondsinsameling. It's kind of like something that you have to do. And I remember as part of my deal, I said, Karate, I'm getting all the men I know together, and we called it a brood and biltong aunt. Brilliantly, there's biltong and droewors and buns and all kinds of bread that you think about, and you have to pay for the table, and then you listen to somebody speak, and we kind of like have like an auction or whatever that is. Okay. So obviously, I am doing this to get qualified in the AFM church because this is now. So obviously, I want to do good. So myself and my mom and everybody I know is kind of like inviting people, and this table is filled up, and we're grateful for that. And that table fills up, and eventually, I think we had like 20 tables inside the church. Each one had like 10 people seated around it, and companies were buying it. And it was really looking good. But then obviously, I could not get to because you had to target. So you had to say, you know what, this is what it is. The pastor that was the presiding pastor at that point in time, he was a deal. Okay. So I think I literally had to do like almost 45,000 Rand more than anybody that was in my class. Okay. So I'm going, okay, right, let me try and do. So eventually I said, okay, right, we'll make some of the money here, and then there'll be something that people can buy, like an auction style thing that they can do. So the one guy that confirms says he's coming, and I'm grateful. Why? Because I know this guy has got money. So he comes in, he lets me know, listen up, and he's a big guy. He's a guy that's got influence. So he drives into the church parking lot with his driver. He's sitting on the back seat. He's the main guy. So at that point in time, I was outside and I was walking to the car. I greeted him because I know him quite well. I greeted him. I said, welcome. I'm grateful that you are here. And we were walking in. And in my mind, I'm going, I'm grateful because if there's anybody that can spend money, this guy can spend money. Okay. And I promise you, we went in and we sat down right before we start. An elderly gentleman ran into the back and he said, hey, he saw a bunch of cars out here and he was wondering what was happening. And I said to him, man, this is what we're doing. And he said, this sounds interesting. Can he join? Now, I don't want to go, no, it's paid event. You have to buy a ticket. So I'm going, right, come on, take a seat. I kid you not. When we got to the part whereby people had to spend money, my rich friend didn't spend a dime. You know who bought 80% of the stuff? The guy that walked in, that I said, please come sit down. And I heard God say this to me. He said this. He said, you better be careful who you count upon in life. You better be careful who you count upon in life. It has stood with me for years, understanding that I go through life not thinking, hear me, I appreciate everybody. But you cannot lead people if you need people. Okay? God is who you need. When David was in trouble, remember scripture says that David counted the people. Okay? And God rebuked him. And I remember having that conversation in my own room, sitting down and thinking, what can be so wrong with counting people? And I heard God say this to me in my spirit. He said to me, I wasn't mad because David counted people. I was mad because David counted on people. Changed my ministry. Change the way I lead people. It changed the way I'm doing things. So I want to say this to you, and I want to encourage you in your own life. Understand, grab hold of some of these principles and go, okay, right, great, we got this. Why is it off? Huh? Is it off? Okay, we can. What time do we finish? 8:30. So we got another one. Can we go? Are you guys ready for another one? Are we good? Are we good? All in favor say aye. Great stuff. Thank you, Evert. Evert het gedog ons gaan vroeg huis toe vandag. Nie met hierdie pastoor nie. Nie met hierdie pastoor nie. Okay. So Evert, we got to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, please. Number 5. Bingo.
Let's continue on just for a moment in this area of influencing people. They have faith in people. Number 4, An influencer listens to people. In fact, Paul Tillich said the first duty of love is to listen. I don't know. Maybe you're not like I am, but one of the early marriage issues that Margaret and I had to work through is that Margaret would like to talk to me about issues of which I wanted to tell her how to solve them. And very early in the marriage, I realized that she didn't want answers. She didn't want Mr. Answer Man for her husband. What she wanted was just somebody to listen to her. Many times she said, John, I'm not wanting answers. Just listen to me. Listen. And I want, me, she'd be halfway. And I said, I got that one figured out. Here, step 1 and step 2. And then if you do this is huge. And I give her a list and say, there you are. Go get him. Go get him. Climb that mountain, Margaret. You can do that. She's not wanting to climb a mountain. She just wants somebody to listen to her. Just listen to it. It took me a long time to learn that. I love the story about the 89-year-old lady who had hearing problems, and the doctor said, I've got great news for you. He said, I can correct your problem. He said, there won't be any operation. He said, and the whole issue, and the lady said, listen, she said, I don't want you to operate. I don't want anything. She said, I've listened to people for 89 years, and it's enough. Just leave me deaf. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I'm thinking, wow. Let me help you to climb the ladder to better listening. This is something you can get your hands around. The first letter L, here we go, stands for look. Look at the person that's doing the speaking, because meanings are not in words, they're in people. So give them visual eye contact. The letter A stands for ask questions, because this is one of the quickest ways to become a good listener is by asking them questions. The first letter D, don't interrupt. Oh, that's so hard, isn't it? Isn't it just hard? You just want to jump in there. You just want to jump in, okay? The second letter D, don't change the subject. In fact, listening is wanting to hear. The letter E, check your emotions. And the letter R stands for responsive listening. In other words, nod with them. Let them know that you're listening. Let them know that you're hanging in there with them. Because this is a weakness in my life. Let me just do a little poll. It's a weakness in my life, so I'm already admitted. How many of you say that I'm a little weak in the area of listening? Huh? Yeah. I think it's one of the major. And what is amazing is many people really look at leaders and they think leaders are. What they think leaders? They think leaders are always telling, not listening. But that's not true. Leaders are always listening to the heart of their people. Leaders are readers of people. They read and respond. They listen and then they lead. Number 5, an influencer understands people. In the book, Climbing the Executive Ladder, let me read a paragraph. Few things will pay you bigger dividends than the time and the trouble that you take to understand people. Almost nothing will add more to your stature as an executive and as a person. Nothing will give you greater satisfaction or bring you more happiness. Listening and understanding people is very difficult. As I shared with you, I just came back this week from Cancun, where I spent 2 days with these top Latino leaders. And because of the cultural barrier, because of the language barrier, I realized that my number one mission, before I ever could develop a strategy for them, which is what I knew they wanted to help them raise up leaders in Central and South America, before I could ever do that, I knew that my number one responsibility was to listen and understand. I literally, in 2 days, when I walked into that hotel, I never walked out of that hotel compound until I went back to the airport. I never got to see the beach or anything at Cancun. I literally stayed in that hotel. But here's what I want you to understand. I worked so hard at just trying to listen and understand. And I would come back at 11:30 at night to the room, and my wife, Margaret, would be there, and I would be mentally and physically exhausted. Because you know what it's like all day long just to try to understand and try to listen and try to sense where they are and feel what they feel and get inside their head and think like they think. In other words, this is not easy work at all. When I used to counsel 30 hours a week, I used to get worn out, just totally worn out counseling. And I'd ask myself why. I'd say, I've been sitting here all day listening to people with their issues. Why am I so tired? I haven't gone out and done anything physically exhausted, but the mental, emotional exhaustion of just trying to listen and understand people. In your notes. To understand the mind of a person, look at what he or she has already achieved. To understand the heart of a person, look at what he or she dreams of becoming. One will show you their heart and give you a whole different perspective of how they are and how they feel. And there are three questions when I want to connect with people. There are three questions I ask. If I were to have lunch with you today, if you and I were to go to lunch, and I could sit down and have an hour and 10 minutes with you, I could walk out of that lunch and I could pretty well know the keys to your heart. And I could know that by asking you three questions. Question number one, what do you laugh about? In other words, what makes you happy? If I could sit down at a lunch with you and I'd say, okay, what makes you happy? You'd meet, if you would talk to me about it right now, I'd talk to you about little Madeline, my grandchild, okay? And you got something. You'd have something. You'd begin to talk. So what do you laugh about? The second question I'd ask you is, what do you cry about? What do you cry about? What makes you sad? What hurts? And the third question is, what do you dream about? What would you like to become? If you could be anything you ever wanted to be, if you could do anything you ever wanted to do, what would you be? What would you do? And when I want to lead people, here's what I know. If I know their heart, I know how they feel. If I know their mind, I know how they think. If I know what their strengths are, I know what they do well. And if I know what their weaknesses are, I know what they don't do well. And if I can know how they feel, how they think, what they do well and what they don't do well, I can go a long way in leading them successfully. My friend Norman Wright says, there are two basic reasons why relationships fail. Number one is fear, which causes us to always erect barriers when there's fear. And number two is selfishness, which causes us to focus on ourselves instead of others. Fear and selfishness are the two basic reasons why relationships usually fail. I got this next thing from the Kansas Agricultural Advertising Agency's new business philosophy. It's called Wear Muddy Boots. At the beginning of the meeting, the head of the agency reaches under the table and brings out a pair of muddy boots and puts them in the center of the conference table and says, now, folks, this is our business philosophy at the agency. If you hire us, we will get our boots muddy. We will walk in the fields with you. We will get as deeply involved in your business as you are, and we will thoroughly understand your problems before we try to create advertising solutions for you. The old muddy boots, it just works. I was with our consultants at Enjoy Stewardship Services recently, and I was sharing with them that when they go out and help these pastors and they help these churches raise money for building programs and debt retirement, I said, first of all, here's what I want you to understand. The reason I formed this company, the reason I formed this organization is because as a pastor, I was always asking myself the question, who's going to help me raise money, reduce debt, and get the mortgage off my back? Because I wanted to put the money in staffing and in buildings. I didn't want to use it for paying off mortgages. And as a pastor, I kept thinking, who can help me? And so I told the consultants, I said, when you go, your first job is always to help that pastor. Put your mind where their mind is, put your heart where their heart is, and come right alongside them and join them because you want to add value. You want to lift them. Now, let's review. How do I gain influence? You have integrity with people, nurture people, have faith in people, listen to people, understand people. Notice the first 5 steps deals with our attitude. The first 5 things of gaining influence are attitude issues, and the last 5 steps are action issues. So let me give you the last 5 things. An influencer An influencer enlarges people. Influencers have the ability to enlarge people. Question, here we go. How do you grow an organization? Grow people. How do you grow people? Grow yourself. Enlarging others always begins with enlarging yourself first. Does that make sense? You cannot give what you do not have. If you're going to grow, you've got to grow yourself before you can grow others. It's like the rather heavy man who went on the sidewalk. There was one of these big sidewalk scales with a big needle, and he was very, very large guy himself, and he stepped on the scales with a large needle and put in his quarter, but he didn't know that the scales were broken, so the needle only went to 45 pounds. You got the picture? And a little girl standing on the sidewalk watching this with her mother. And, she sees this huge guy get on the scale, and the needle goes to 45 pounds. And she's trying to figure out. She looks at the scale. She looks at the man. She looks at the scales, and she's trying to figure it out. And finally, big smile breaks out on her face. She says, "Oh, Mom, look at that man." She said, "He's hollow." I know a lot of hollow people, don't you? If you're empty on inside, you cannot enlarge people. You cannot give what you do not have. So, what are the 6 essentials to enlarging others? Number 1, placing a high value on people. You will never try to grow other people if you don't believe in them. That's simple enough. Number 2, a personal commitment to growth. You have to have a personal commitment to growth. 3, a personal commitment to add value to others, where you say to yourself, what I want to do in my life is add value to them. Number 4, the ability to communicate your belief in others. Number 5, the ability to stretch them. And number 6, your highest joy is other people's success. When you can come to that place, it is huge what happens. In my book, The Success Journey, I wrote what I think success is, and I think it's 3 things. I think success is knowing my purpose in life. I think, secondly, it's growing to my maximum potential. And here's what I want you to see, the third part of success. I think success is sowing seeds that benefit others. I do not think you can be successful unless you pour your life into others. Does that make sense? Enlarging and caring for others. That's what influencers, that's what leaders do. But an influencer not only enlarges people, number 7, an influencer navigates for people. An influencer helps people in the journey by navigating for them. The law of navigation, anyone can steer a ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. I can remember the first time we did whitewater rafting. Especially we went into an area in Canada that was very rough waters. And I remember the guide looked at us and he said, I want to tell you 2 things. Number 1, he says, immediately obey me on command. When I tell you to paddle, paddle. When I tell you to bail, bail. When I tell you to lean one way, lean one way. He said, don't question. We don't want to get into debate. He said, you just remember, I'm the boss. Immediately obey me. And said the second thing he said we're going to do is he said, we're going to get out of the raft. And he said, when we go to the tough areas, we're going to get out of the raft and walk around the side. And we're going to look down at the river where the rough area is. I'm going to explain to you exactly what I want you to do, because he said, our key to success is you knowing about the trouble before you ever get there. And man, I remember I'm sitting there and I'm taking notes mentally. I'm saying, this is huge. This is huge. What a leader does is a leader helps the people that are navigating down the river of life by saying, not only listen to me, but when we're getting ready for some trouble, we're going to stop. I'm going to show you these spots ahead, because here's what I know about a leader. Are you ready? A leader is one who knows more than the people around them. So leaders, they know more, okay, than the other people around them. They see more than others see. A leader is one who sees farther than others see. And a leader is one who sees before others see. Now think about it for a moment. If you're getting on a ship and you're going on a journey, don't you want the captain to be able to see farther than you see? It just makes you feel a little bit more. I mean, do you want to get on a ship with Mr. Magoo? I mean, he's a happy boy, but the journey will be very exciting. Huh? No. You know what? Mr. Magoo's don't have any business navigating for other people. Huh? And the law of navigation says the leader sees farther than others sees more than others sees before others see. And leaders, what they do is they navigate. An influencer connects with people. An influencer has the ability to connect with people. All great leaders and communicators have one thing in common, and that is they connect with people. So let me give you 4 connecting thoughts. Number 1, connecting with people is the leader's responsibility. Connecting with people is the leader's responsibility. It's not the follower's responsibility to connect with you. If you're the leader, I remember I used to, as a kid, go over to General Electric and watch the locomotives come into the yard there to connect with the box cars to get the General Electric supplies. And you know, they come in and they would couple the cars and take them out. You know what I noticed as a kid? Not one time did the box cars ever run around the yard looking for the locomotive. The locomotive always looked for the boxcar. The leader always looks for those that are to follow. The followers don't have to connect with the leader. The leader connects with the followers. Number 2, connecting with people means caring for people. We've already talked about the nurturing and the listening and the understanding. Number 3, connecting with people means reading people. Again, leaders are readers of people, knowing where they are. And fourthly, connecting with people means going to their agenda first. That's what connecting with people means. The ability to get into their life. The 9th thing that influencers do is they empower people. John Craig says, no matter how much work you can do, no matter how engaging your personality may be, you will not advance far in business if you cannot work through others. Enlarging people, enlarging a person deals with their individual growth. So that you enlarge them by dealing with their individual growth. Empowering a person deals with their organizational growth. And empowerment means several things. It means seeing the potential of an individual. It means saying encouraging, empowering words to that individual. It means sharing your power and position. It means showing to others that you believe in them. That's all that stuff. All that stuff is empowerment. By the way, when I stop here for a moment, when I teach leadership, especially in international areas, when I teach leadership, come on up here for a second. Let me illustrate something. Just come on up here and you can stand with me, right? My name's John. What's your name? Bob. Bob. When I teach leadership in international areas, this is huge in empowerment, because what happens many times in the international arena is leaders get a position and then they try to hold on to it and they try to push everybody else down. Are you with me? And it's kind of like playing King of the Mountain. You got it? And so, but here's what happens. Here's what I want you to see. You can either empower people and release them and let them go, or you can try to hold on to them and push them down. But let me just show you what happens. If I'm the leader here and Bob happens to be in my organization, he's got great potential, but instead of enlarging him and building him up, I'm constantly pushing him down. Let me show you exactly when I start pushing Bob down. Now when I start pushing Bob down, not only am I pushing him down, but something happens to me. That's right. You see, when you start pushing your people down, you'll always go down with them. That's right. But empowering is an enlarging and releasing exercise of a leader. And here's what happens if I start helping Bob and lifting him and helping take him up to a new level. Every time I raise Bob up and bring him up to a new level, what's happening to me? I'm going up with him. Here's what I want you to understand with the leader. You'll always take the same journey as the people you lead. So if you push them down, you go down with them. If you lift them up, you go up with them. Does that make sense? It does. Thanks, Bob. Good job. Give him a hand, would you, huh? Good job. Okay. Good job. Okay. Now, There are 5 essentials. Look at your notes. There are 5 essentials to empowerment. Number 1, find a person worthy of empowerment. I'm not saying empower without discretion. Number 2, clearly lay out their mission and responsibilities. In other words, let them know what they're supposed to do. Thirdly, verbally and visually show your support. Fourthly, keep an open door relationship with them. And number 5, give them the public credit when successful. And the key is giving them the public credit when successful. One more thing, and I'll wrap up this lecture. Here we go. Number 10, one more thing that an influencer does. An influencer, number 10, reproduces other people. Influencers have the ability not only to draw people to themselves, but they have the ability to reproduce other people in their life. And here's the way it works. When you influence a child, you influence a life. That's a fact. When you influence a parent, you influence a family. But when you influence a worker, you influence an organization or a company. And when you influence a leader, you influence everyone who looks to him or to her for leadership. So you can see the multiplication power of empowerment itself. So here's the question. Why don't all leaders develop other leaders? Have you ever thought of that before? Because it takes a leader to develop a leader. It takes a leader to it takes one to know one, takes one to grow one, takes one to show one. Okay, why don't most leaders develop other leaders? Number 1, because they're insecure. And if we're insecure, we'll never develop another leader because we're afraid they'll take our job. Isn't that right? Oh my goodness, I don't want to, oh my goodness, I might be replaced. Oh, happy day, oh, happy day. Number 2, they spend too much time with the followers. Number 3, followers, and this is very true, followers are easier to find and lead than leaders. Isn't that true? I mean, it's easy. If I tell you right now, walk out of the auditorium and go out and find some followers, that isn't hard. You just go out and find people. But if I say go out and find some leaders, it's a little, see, leaders are hard to find. And not only are leaders hard to find, leaders are hard to gather. Isn't that true? You tell a leader, come with me. And the leader doesn't just jump on and say, oh, yeah, well, good, you're moving, I'll go. You tell a leader to go with you, and they'll say, where are you going? When you coming back? What are you going to do while you're gone? How much does it cost? Can I drive? Huh? Isn't that true? Leading leaders, I've often said, is like herding cats. Number 4, the fourth reason we don't develop others to be leaders is that they don't recognize the value of developing leaders. They don't realize the value of multiplication with leaders. And number 5, leadership has been viewed as a competitive effort, not a cooperative one. I think this is a huge problem right here. We look at leadership as a competitive effort, not a cooperative one. Let me explain to you. Remember when you were a kid? How many of you when you were kids, how many of you played Follow the Leader? Huh? You play that game? Remember what the job of the leader was to do? The job of the leader was to do complicated things so that the followers would never become the leader. Isn't that right? In other words, it was the job of the leader to do things so difficult that no one would ever become the leader except the person that was leading. So it was your job as a leader to protect your job. What was the job of the followers? To take the job away from the leader. They wanted to be the leader themselves, so they had to outperform the leader so they could become the leader. This competitive spirit, I remember when I was a kid, I grew up, I loved to play basketball, and on my home court, it's the one that's the basketball, the basket's on your garage. You got what I'm saying? On my home court with my driveway, I was awesome. And I'd play follow lead with the kids, and if I saw one of them getting real close to me, there was this deal that the backboard came out from the garage. There was this deal where I'd take the basketball and I would hit the garage, it would go over the backboard, and it would go right through the nets. I mean, only a kid who spends hours doing nothing can do that kind of thing. You understand? Okay. And so when I wanted to shake the followers, you know how I'd always go to the try and prove. I said, well, all right, they're making their foul shots, they're making their jump shots, they're making their layups, they're making their hooks. All right, I'm going to fix them. And I'd go over to the garage and I'd do this shot, and every time I'd lose them all. Man, I got to keep the job. Now, many times I think we carry that game over to life. And we somehow think that this is a competitive effort. See, we're not here to compete with one another. We're here really to complete one another. And leaders understand this process. And if you're going to reproduce others, you have to be willing to give your job away. You have to be willing to empower people. You have to want to have other people succeed. My niece Amanda, she was just down to visit me a couple of months ago, and she works in the emergency room of a hospital. So I was saying, Amanda, talk to me. How do they train you to do this emergency stuff? I mean, this is kind of a bloody kind of a deal. I mean, how do they train? And she said, it's very easy. She said, we have a 3-step process in the emergency room. And I said, oh, you mean you do 3 steps when you go in the emergency room? She said, all the training is in 3 ways. And I said, well, what is it? She said, well, you watch one. In other words, you watch somebody do it, and then you do one, and then you train one. Watch one, do one, train one. She says that's how we train in the emergency room. I watch them do it. I do it. I train somebody else to do it. And that day when she talked to me, I thought to myself, if every one of us would just do that 3-step formula in life, watch somebody do it ourselves, and then pass it on. Because our influence really never grows until we use it to help our fellow man. Does that make sense? Thank you very much.
That was good stuff. Okay, a lot of information. Obviously, when you guys receive the book, there's some extra reading stuff that you can do, which is actually quite interesting, and it really, really, really helps you a lot. Guys, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Enjoy your night. Have an awesome time. Remember now, if I'm not mistaken, I think next week is our last week. Am I right? I think we're finishing off, and then we'll just get done, wrap everything up, and I will let you then know how we will go on with regards to that. Thank you so much. Have a blessed night. Please just pick up the cups and everything in here so that it looks fairly decent, and then we can continue going. Enjoy. Go well. Bye bye.